What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Everything College Basketball Podcast, episode 174. I'm, of course, your host, Josh Burton, and joining me today is a special guest and a newly acquired friend of mine, Mr. Max Barr from Southeastern 14. Over at Twitter and on the YouTube, they cover SEC college basketball, college football. They cover the Southeastern Conference from top to bottom. I'm excited to have Max on with me today. Max, it's your first time on, my friend. I'm happy to have you. And how the hell are you doing on this fine Sunday morning?
Quick round of applause here for that intro. Are you kidding me with this energy? Come on, I'm fired up. Listen, I was recording with Southeastern 14 before this, and one of the things I said is I was like, after those games ended yesterday, I felt like I played in them. I'm gassed after them. I'm like that, some of those OT games end, and I'm like, oh my gosh, did I just play in that game? I mean, it was just a crazy day of hoops yesterday. Crazy day.
Brother, I know. And unfortunately, everybody knows one of my teams tucking Big L on the road, which has been the kind of the theme this week. We're going to talk about college basketball. And also, if you hear a little boy kind of, I'm babysitting. I've got a 3-year-old that I'm babysitting. He won't take a nap. C'est la vie. It is life. I apologize if that's what you hear, but what are you going to do? Can't get the little boy to take a nap. So it's all good. We'll push through. But dude, crazy action, not just in the SEC, which we're going to talk about here at the top of the show, but college basketball this week was drunk. It was absolutely drunk. I think the only two teams that came out unscathed inside the top 10 were UConn and North Carolina, and we're going to talk about one of those here later on. The rest of the top 10 and top 25 took a bump. Some of them took two, which we're going to get to. But before we get to all that, Max, this is your first time. We like to start out with some news, talk a little shit at the beginning if possible. I do want to touch on real quick before we get into some of the SEC talk here. Unfortunate news across college basketball. One of them we didn't mention on Thursday's show in episode 173, so we'll cover it now. Sean Jones from Marquette. We just raved on him last week. Having a great game off the bench when he dropped like 15, 16 points, hit a couple threes in a big game. He tore his ACL. He's done for the year. You look at Isaiah Collier, the stud freshman for USC. He's out for, I think they said 6 to 8 weeks. I want to talk to you about that because I don't think he comes back this year. I think he foregoes the rest of his college career in preparation for the NBA draft. And the other one, the weird one, Doug McDaniel from Michigan is suspended, but only 6 road games. He gets to play in all the home games. I've never in my life heard of some kind of suspension like this. What in the hell is going on? So between those three, what do you want to touch on first? Because 2 of them bad, 1 of them very weird.
Well, yeah, and I have no clue what the heck is going on there. I right as that got announced, I go right to the comments on those announcements. I'm like, what are people saying about this? And all of them are like, is he on house arrest? I mean, what the heck is going on here? I don't know. I don't know what the heck is going on, but that whole Michigan season right now is just like a big question mark. I have no clue what's going on over there. The Sean Jones injury is massive,
Huge.
What was that game that he had all those threes off the bench in? I forget which one it was, but it was a massive one.
Was it the Creighton game? I think it was Creighton, right?
Let me go look.
I think it was Creighton, yeah.
Especially because without Omax Prosper, you've had Joplin comes in and, Joplin does a great job at the 4. He can shoot some threes, but like you can tell Marquette is losing, they did lose a little bit from last year. But then Sean Jones comes in and what people are calling him the fastest guy in college hoops.
From end to end, yeah, dude, he is lightning quick.
Yeah, so I mean it's a huge blow for a team that already, lost Omax to the draft. And then Collier, you think he's not playing?
I think he's donezo because if you look at USC, the season is not going according to plan. And in order for them, I mean, they're 8-9. They've lost 2 in a row. They've lost 4 of their last 6, and they've actually lost 7 of their last 9. It looks like here. They're 8-9, bro. And I think everybody, including us, when we did our ECB preseason magazine, predicted them to be challengers to Arizona for the Pac-12 throne. At this point, they're not going to make the NCAA tournament. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. If he comes back, it's going to be at the end of March. This team's probably going to be dead in the water, and their only hope would be Pac-12 conference champions to get the AQ. I don't see it happening, and I think only further damage can be had. I think he's done so.
Yeah, I mean, I remember back in like June, July when they started adding like Dennis Rodman and they started getting these little transfer pieces. Also, I remember all the tweets that were like, "Is this team top 10? Is this is this a Final Four team?" And geez, look at how far we've come. And I mean, Josh, their upcoming schedule is brutal. They got 2 straight away games. First one here is Arizona on the road.
Next.
It's not getting no easier for this team. So
no,
geez.
It's brutal. It's not going to plan. Unfortunately, had a lot of high hopes, but I'll put it out there. I don't think Collier laces up for USC again in preparation, because if you already look at his draft stock compared to what it was preseason, where they were talking about him being a top 3, top 4 pick,
right
now he's fallen to maybe outside of the lottery, and I think only further damage could be done. The only thing, and shout out to our guy Phil, who brought this up, the only reason he would come back is because his draft stock is slipping. Maybe he comes back and tries at the end to show people, no, I've still got it, to raise that stock. But I think he shuts it down. I think this whole USC experiment for at least this year has been a complete failure. I think that's what is the case right there. Sean Jones is sad because Marquette, yes, they were slipping a little bit, but he was starting to play some of his best basketball off the bench. You're talking about that gives them kind of a speedster, change of pace guard to come in off the bench, different than Tyler Kolek, and now he's done for the year. It hurts a bench who is not the deepest as is, so we'll be interesting to see how Marquette adjusts from that. The Doug McDaniel thing is just weird. Like, if you're going to suspend him 6 road games, like, is he a menace on the road? Like, when they go to the hotel on the road, does he do dumb shit? That's why he can't go? I don't know. The Michigan thing is blowing up too. I think they're going to see a lot of changes in the offseason once this season is done with Michigan. But that's enough of kind of the news and craziness. We brought you on to talk some SEC hoops, so let's get down to it. One of the craziest games that we've seen so far in this college basketball season happened yesterday in College Station. Texas A&M, who was preseason a top 4 team in the SEC and a top 15 team in the country, found their way again. They've been struggling. They found their way. They take Kentucky into overtime and beat them 97-92. Your initial reactions to that victory? Oh, and we lost you. There you go. Are you back?
There. Sorry, I tried to switch to KenPom and I hit X on the closed out the web page. Are we jumping to SEC hoops? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was looking at KenPom as well. Basically, what I was saying is the craziest game of yesterday, I think, had to have been the Texas A&M win, a preseason top 15 team, preseason top 4 in the SEC. Been struggling, but they found their form again yesterday. Took Kentucky to deep waters into overtime. We were able to win 97-92. I was just asking for your initial reactions to that game.
Well, first off, probably craziest game I've seen or watched this year. There was maybe that Florida-Michigan game that went into OT was pretty crazy. But this one, when I'm talking entertainment value, oh my gosh, especially for a January game. I mean, we're 2-3 games into the conference season and we get this, just nuts. And this is coming from someone who picked A&M to win the game. I thought Kentucky and the production they got from Ugonna Onyenso, I mean, there's so many positives that you can take away from this. I think the one thing that's real glaring to me, Josh, is, and I think you as a diehard Kentucky fan can relate to this a little bit. The guard defense is a little bit concerning to me. They keep letting big numbers up from the guard position. What are you seeing on that?
It's a whole lot concerning. I've been talking about this elite offense, and you've seen it yesterday. A&M's not a team who scores high volume, a lot of points. They had to put up 97. I know it went to overtime, but at the end of regulation, they had like 89 or 87 or whatever it was. You have to score to beat this Kentucky team. You have to, because they're going to put up, they're averaging 90-some points a game, and they basically hit their average yesterday. Everything relies on the defense. And what I see is a mixture of laziness, and I'll tell you why, and I think maybe a little game planning, because all A&M did for that second half is run one single high ball screen and allow Radford or Wade Taylor to get downhill and they had the guards, whoever was guarding them, whether it was DJ Wagner, Rob Dillingham, Reed Shepard, Antonio Reeves, they whipped them to the rim. You can't allow that. Maybe once or twice, because Taylor is very, very good. We talked about him in the preseason magazine we released. Everybody knows Wade Taylor has All-American potential. Tyrese Radford is a great complementary guard, but you cannot let them combine for 50-some points doing the same single high ball screen and knowing when they are in rhythm, you have to close out on them on three-point shooters. A&M ran that single high ball screen. Kentucky just allowed themselves to get screened. When you defend a ball screen, you have to have your big come up and hedge hard. Your guard has to fight through. A lot of times, Kentucky, if the ball screen came from the left side, Kentucky's guards would be lazy and allow themselves to get screened. The big would either play in drop coverage or play on the wrong side of the screen on a hedge, gave a free driving lane. And once those guys get downhill, I don't care if you got Bradshaw. Ugo had like 5 blocks, but it's going to put you in bad situations at all time, especially with 2 very good guards. One of the best 1-2 punches in college basketball, and Taylor and Radford. Their on-ball defense has to get better, and I love Reed Shepard. My dad loves Reed Shepard, but he can be very lazy at times because he's so good playing passing lanes off ball. He gets caught ball watching all the time, gives up offensive rebounds because he's missing blockouts, ball watching. He's trying to shoot passing lanes to get steals to go down and make a play the other way. It's easy to backdoor cut him or just flare in the corner because he gets stuck. Defense has to get better for Kentucky. And if it does, we're talking about a team who can win a national championship. Until then, there's going to be a certain ceiling until that defense gets better.
Yes, and well, Josh, we also have to mention this. Okay, there was a player on each team that was injured coming into the game. Okay, and they play a very similar role, a very physical energy, come in and rebound and get some steals. For Kentucky, that's Adu Thiero, and for A&M, that's Solo Washington. Okay, and Kentucky did not have Thiero. Solo Washington comes in and has 7 points, 9 rebounds.
He was tremendous too. Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, flip that, right? Say no Solo Washington, but Kentucky has Adu Thiero. I think we see a different outcome.
See, and I'm with you. And the dude's been out for, I think it's 3 or 4 games now, dealing with some general soreness is what they say. The Cats need him back because at his length and versatility, a guy that could match up 1 through 5. You're talking about a kid that's continued to grow. He came into Kentucky last year at like 6'5". Now he's up to like 6'8", 6'9".
He's a beast.
And he can guard your perimeter players. He is their best on-ball defender. He blocks shots at the rim. His timing's great. Plus, on the offensive end, you talk about a guy that can rip through contact and dunk on somebody's head. They are missing Adu, I think, a little more than people generally thought they would. Yes. But even with Adu, the problems are still there, and it's fundamental stuff that can be adjusted. Kentucky did a great job finally staying on their feet. But leading up, you go back to Florida last week, in the Kansas game and all these other games, you give Kentucky just a head fake, not even a shot fake. They're off their feet. So there's some fundamental defensive issues that have to get ironed out. But look at the stat lines here. Now, we know A&M, we covered the sport, especially you with the SEC, me as well, being a fan of a team in there.
Right.
A&M's not going to shoot this well the rest of the year. They went 12 of 32 from 3 for 37.5%. They may not hit 12 combined threes in their next 3 games. That's just not who they are, but they caught fire yesterday. Kentucky hit 15 of them. 15 threes and lost the game. If you tell me Kentucky hits 15 threes the rest of the year, they're not losing probably any of these games the rest of the way. A couple other numbers. Free throw line. Kentucky 13 of 21. 8 free throw misses. Killer. A&M 19 of 30. So they got to the line more times because they were the aggressive team getting to the rim. The rebounding number was atrocious. A&M only won by 8 rebounds, but 25 offensive rebounds. I know that's their strength, but Kentucky gives up offensive rebounds like easy. Way too many. And then you look, A&M controlled the turnover battle. They only had 9 throughout the course of a game in a fast-paced game. Kentucky had 11. And the points in the paint, A&M 38 points in the paint to Kentucky's 32. That's the story of the game. They had 2 guards go off. They shot out of their mind, and they made the plays down the stretch that needed to be made. I mean, again, if Kentucky hits 15 threes the rest of the way in a game, they're not losing. It was just one of those days, I think, at College Station.
Yeah, I said this on our Southeastern 14 show. I don't know if any team could have gone into College Station yesterday and came out of there with a win the way they were playing. I mean, and that was a complete back against the wall, desperation. We need a win at all costs type of game. I think that's why you saw Solo Washington play. They needed all hands on deck type of thing. I hate to do this, but I think in the long run, this helps Kentucky a little bit. Like if you watch the Cal press conference after, he was like, down the stretch, I felt like we made some freshman plays. I felt like we took some shots without moving the ball a little bit. It was just one ball screen, jack a shot, one ball screen, jack a shot. And I think down the road, the next time Kentucky finds themselves in a hostile environment and in a close game, I think they take care of the offense and get a little bit better shot down the road. I think this is going to be a good learning experience for a young team that I think finally we saw like, okay, man, these were some freshman plays for the first time.
And I agree with that. At least the fan side of me hopes that, right? Because they got to learn being physical. They play grown men, and they withstood the challenge for the majority of the game, but overtime they were completely shot. Like, they were completely shot. You looked at some of the jump shots, front ends of them, because they weren't get their legs into them, missing the free throws front end. A&M wore them out by being grown men and being physical, relentless on the glass, defensively, relentless, physical with them. And it doesn't get that much easier because Kentucky has Mississippi State coming up. They've still got 2 games with Tennessee. Auburn's going to play them physical. So you would hope this helps them down the road. A couple things I do want to touch on. Cal talked about not sharing the basketball. They had 22 assists on 32 made field goals. And that's about their average this year, where when they're flying high and scoring all these points, they're assisting the hell out of it. A couple plays I do want to touch on. There at the end of the game. First of all, let's go back to the first half. The goaltending call absolutely infuriated me because
I hate that rule.
It's so stupid. Kentucky has a layup. It is blocked. The initial call's goaltending. Okay? But even on the block off the goaltending call, Kentucky had the ball, and I think it was Ugo had the ball right in front of the rim to lay it up.
Right there.
That's 2 points, right? It's 2 points. They go back, they review it at the under 4 timeout, they take the points away. Why in the hell are they taking it away? At the very least, if you think it's goaltending, stop the play there, go to the monitor, wipe it out. But Kentucky had possession, give them the ball back. That took 2 points away from the Cats. That could have won them the game in regulation in theory. So I want to talk to you about that, and then the couple big ones there at the end I want to talk about. Your thoughts on that goaltending, because I thought that was absolute horse shit.
That's a new rule this year, and I hate it. I hate it. The 2 things that I hate most that have kind of been implemented this year and maybe a little bit last year is the stupid goaltending rule. And then also, have you seen, like, all of a sudden, I've been watching college basketball my whole life. I've never seen refs call fouls after a missed shot so much.
Oh, yeah.
Have you been seeing? It's like, if it's a foul, call the foul. Why does the outcome of the shot matter? You know, if he misses the shot, okay, then it's a foul. If he makes it, you're not going to call the foul. I could go on and on about the refs. I thought, yeah, that 2 points is big too, because that changes the way you play.
You play it at the end, yeah.
That changes the way you play the game. So, like,
well, let's tie that in, because say you give Kentucky those 2 points, right? Let's say you give them those 2 points. They're at the end when they have the ball. When it was tied and they had the ball, and then Rob throws the pass to DJ and he fumbles it and allows A&M to go down and score to go ahead. Well, if they're up 2 and there's 15 seconds left, A&M's got a foul. It changes the whole course of the game. They've got a foul. You play the foul game and see what happens from there. Then you talk about the freshman mistakes. I thought Rob, the only mistake he made, he went too early. I wanted him to go at like 6, because that way you either win and go home off a buzzer beater or you go to overtime. He went with like 11, tried to make the pass to DJ, and DJ fumbled it, which led to an A&M bucket and all that. Let's talk about the fouls at the end, though, where Reed Shepherd, it was basically going to close the game out there, and Tyrese Radford, at the end of the shot clock, steps back, buries a 3, and they say offensive foul because he kicked his leg out and tripped Reed. Your thoughts? Because I have thoughts on that.
I'll be honest. I think in that situation, I think in all those late game fouls, I think the one that sent Reed to the line to send it to overtime, I think the one that got called back on Radford, and the one that gave Reed 3 free throws, I think all of those, And what we've seen in the history of college basketball is refs swallow their whistle in those times.
Mm-hmm.
That's just if it's a foul or not, the ref usually swallows their whistle. I think the only thing that comes to mind is that San Diego State Creighton game in March Madness last year.
Oh yeah, last year, yeah.
And you saw the reaction after that. Everyone, that's not a foul. You can't call that there. So I don't know. I thought the refs were kind of making it too much about them there at the end.
I hate inconsistency from refs where
Yes.
you allow a game to be played one way for 98% of the game, and then at the end you call it a different way. Just be consistent all the way through.
Right.
As far as the foul, Radford shoots like that. Kentucky players had, like, Rob Dillingham always kicks his legs out Reggie Miller style. They called the foul, and maybe by textbook it should have been, but I don't think that was a foul. Like, I think that should have been a 3-point play or a 3-pointer, maybe a 4-point play the other way. They called the offensive foul, and then we go down, and Reed shoots a 3 and gets hit. There was no contact there from Wade Taylor, I don't think. Maybe, if any, just the bare minimum. They called the foul. And then also you're talking about the Reed bucket there to where he got fouled to hit the free throws. He caught it, turned around. I don't think there was a foul there. So I think 3 calls there went against A&M, and they still found a way to win. A&M's still a good team. I told a lot of people who don't understand, they only looked at the record, 9-6, or like, A&M's not good. A&M's still a damn good ball team, and we seen it yesterday. When they play well and they get the production they get from Radford and Taylor, and then some of the supporting cast steps up, they're a good team. They will not shoot that well again the rest of the year. I will bank a whole lot of money on that. They do not shoot that well, but that's a good ball team.
Well, hey, look at their next 4 games. They have 2 straight road games, but they're 2 of them very winnable road games. They go to Arkansas and LSU, and then they get 2 straight home games, Mizzou and Ole Miss. We could see this team just rattle off 5 in a row right now, get back in the top 25, and we're like, wait, why did we ever doubt this team? They didn't have Tyrese Radford when they lost all those games. So I agree with you 100%. I think this team's not getting enough credit at all for how good they are.
Completely agree. Last thing on both teams, A&M, you talked about their upcoming schedule. There is an opportunity for them to rattle off a bunch of wins, be right there again in the SEC race, which they desperately need. Kentucky, they've got Mississippi State coming up on Wednesday at home. If you look on paper, the schedule should be quote-unquote lighter. Next week, it's Mississippi State and a good Georgia team. The SEC is loaded this year.
Yeah.
But you would like to think Kentucky could get on a run, finish January out very strong with only 3 losses, heading into a very tough February. I think they're going to be fine because when you score at that kind of elite level, you're always going to have a chance. If the defense gets better, it's a national title contending team. If it doesn't get better, it's a team that could make the Final Four. They could get knocked out in the first round. It's all very dependent. But great win for Texas A&M yesterday. Let's move on. Let's go to another great game that finished as this Kentucky game was starting. I've called them I wrote about them in the magazine. You can go, if you've got the magazine, go back and look at it. Talking about the Georgia Bulldogs. I said it in the preseason. I said when I wrote the magazine for the SEC previews back in September, this was my sleeper in the SEC. They started the year off, got demolished by Oregon, and people thought I was crazy. And I said, just keep watching. Even though they came up short yesterday, I am so damn impressed with what Mike White is doing with Georgia. I like this Georgia team a whole lot. And I'm going out on the limb again on record saying Georgia will be an NCAA tournament team. I love this team. But what about the resolve from the Volunteers blowing a double-digit lead there in the first half, finding themselves down double digits, and then there at the end, the closing 4-minute stretch, rallying behind their patented Tennessee defense and coming out with a big road win, 85-79. Incredible basketball game. Both teams really shined in this one, and I think both teams come out of this game looking better than they did going into it.
I love that you said that this is a tournament team because I could pull up right now my group chat from yesterday with Chris Lee and Blake Lavelle at Southeastern 14. And I said, I don't care what the resume says. My eyeballs are telling me this is a tournament team. I don't care what they'll get their wins. And one of the reasons why is because this team has 3 very good ball handlers. You have Noah Thomason, Justin Hill, and Silas Demery. And they're 2 of them are on the floor at all times. So you have 2 point guards at all times. This team doesn't turn the ball over that much. They're hard to press, and they space the floor really well with Jabri Abdur-Rahim at the 4 So you have all those 3-point shooters. This is a really tough team in Georgia. You got to tip your cap to Dalton Connect, though. I mean,
He's
geez.
tremendous.
If you watch the post-game press conference, Mike White just said, I mean, sometimes good offense beats good defense. I mean, tip your cap to the guy. Listen to this stat. So I took every Dalton Connect game on the road. He's averaging 31.3 points per game, shooting 48% from 3 on the road.
That's insane.
Insane.
Like, I don't think anybody thought when he came in from Northern Colorado.
Yep.
I don't think anybody thought. Like, obviously there's a reason why the Indianas and Tennessees and Kentucky was looking at him for a little bit. They all wanted him for a reason. But I don't think in any of these coaches' wildest imagination they thought they would get an all-American kid like this, who may be an NBA draft pick now. You're talking about a 6'6" kid who can really shoot, can really put the ball on the deck, and he's learning how to play defense. Like, that's an NBA player right there. That's like a 2-guard in the NBA. And 36 points, 7 of 12 from inside the arc, 5 of 8 from 3, only missed 2 free throws, pitched in 4 rebounds, 3 assists. I mean, he is phenomenal. How about the work? And I'm so happy for Zakai Ziegler. Since coming back from injury, the torn ACL at the end of last year, it took him a while. It took him about a month to kind of get his legs under him again. But the last couple of weeks, he's been phenomenal. 18 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He did have 6 turnovers, but it comes with territory sometimes. But his defensive pressure, he put so much pressure. Now, I thought Silas, our guy Silas, he's been on the show multiple times, friends with family. Everybody knows that. I thought he handled that pressure well. But, man, when Zakai got up into Justin Hill and just ripped the ball from him at half court, boy, the ball handlers would have no part of Zakai Ziegler picking him up. His defense completely changes Tennessee. We've said it for a couple years. He's the heart and soul of Tennessee, and he shows it night in, night out now that he's getting healthy. Zakai Ziegler, Dalton Connect really lead this team. Jonas Idu pitches in with 10.7 or 15 rebounds. This Tennessee team is tough. Their defense is always elite. I'm still concerned about their scoring, but to find themselves down double digits late on the road against a team who buried 14 threes against them and find a way to win, Tennessee is going to be a problem the rest of the year. It's still their offensive consistency that scares the hell out of me, because Connect can go for 30 every night, but they still need help from him. Josiah Jordan-James, only 4. Santiago Vescovi as a senior has been very disappointing, I think, this year. They need help, more consistency, but Tennessee is legit as can be.
I have literally the same outlook on this team as you do. Literally the same. This is a game past 2 years that Tennessee would have lost. That they would have lost the past 2 years. And I like how you brought up Ziegler. 2 things real quick. 6 turnovers. He had 6 at half.
Yeah.
So he had a brutal first half, but then as your leader you would like to see, completely just short memory snaps out of it, doesn't have a single turnover the whole second half. And Mike White in his post-game press conference, he said, we could not run a sideline out of bounds. We could not run anything because Ziegler would blow everything up. He said there was about 2 to 3 different sideline out of bounds plays that were just completely mashed because of Ziegler would not let them get the ball to point guard. He changes how teams have to run offense. It's incredible.
I will say this, and I was talking to a Georgia fan on our ECB Twitter. He was commenting on the first half of that game, and I told him Georgia's getting in trouble every time they run a ball screen because Tennessee, unlike Kentucky, blows it up. They run their big out on a hard hedge to push you out high and wide, and then they'll double team if you hold on to the ball too long with a Ziegler or Dalton Connect. Most of the time it's Ziegler. I think to play against Tennessee, you have to go in some kind of motion where you spread them out.
Yeah.
Skip the ball screens, maybe run like a ghost screen to bring the big up, get him playing a hard hedge, and then dive back to the rim like a slip screen to keep them honest. And you have to play fast. North Carolina played fast against them, put 100 on their head. Kentucky's going to play fast against them. Auburn will be more physical, but you know what I'm saying?
Right.
To beat Tennessee's half-court defense, I think you have to just completely skip the ball screens because they blow it up as well as anybody in the country. Tennessee, very impressive, but I'm still very high on Georgia. Do not let this result fool you. This is a team that is getting better. They just had their 10-game win streak snapped. They are going to be an NCAA tournament team. I would put a whole lot of money on that. They've got too many good guards. They've got playmakers and Abdul Rahim that can step up and hit big shots. It's all about consistency with them, but I think they're going to make the tournament. I think they'll get an at-large bid. I really do. They are my sleeper, but great game in Athens yesterday. Let's talk about some other ones. Dude, how disappointing is Arkansas? Like we wrote about them again in the magazine. By the way, when we're done with this, I'll send you a copy. We're not selling them anymore, so I'll send you a copy to go back and check our preseason notes and see what you think. But I think all of us had Arkansas. Here's what I wrote about them. Arkansas, with all these new pieces, we've seen it time and time again with Musselman. He has a extremely talented team that they will take some lumps along the way and start to figure themselves out late January into February into March, and then they'll be ready for March. I don't think this team's going to figure it out. They are not close right now. They're getting embarrassed. What's your thoughts on Arkansas?
Yeah, I think you're right on it. And what's different is in years past, you've had that identity, that culture that's like kind of your bedrock that you can fall back on. And this team doesn't have it at all. Musselman actually came out after this last game and he said, I mean, this is a straight quote from Musselman. This group does not have the characteristics of teams we've had in the past. He just you don't even need us to do the analysis. The coach is giving it right to you. This team does not have that tough, gritty, right in your shorts defense that Arkansas has been known for the past few years. You have no clue who's playing game to game. They're just throwing different lineups out there, seeing what sticks. The team's a mess. The team is a complete mess. And over at Southeastern 14, our biggest fan base, like biggest following is Arkansas, and they've just completely checked out. I mean, even the fans are like, we have no hope for the season.
And it's brutal. And we talked about this being a potential issue. Shout out to Peyton, who brought it up quite a bit and leading into the season. And they brought in all this talent, but he brought in a lot of scoring. Like you look at Bleav Battle was Temple's biggest scorer, best player.
Right.
You look at, I mean, for what it's worth, L. Ellis was Louisville's best player, their best scorer. Tremont Mark wasn't at Houston, but he was a scoring threat. You look at Jeremiah Davenport was Cincinnati's best scorer. Had the ball all the time. He brought in a lot of guys who are used to having the ball and being the guy to score, and it's showing on the floor because you watch Arkansas. If they miss a shot down the floor, and let's say they find themselves down 7, 8, 9, 10 points, well, then if Bleav Battle hasn't had a shot in a while, he's coming down and chucking. It doesn't matter. If LLs hasn't had a shot in a minute, no passes. I'm coming down, going one-on-one. I'm taking a shot. The same way with Davenport. They have a bunch of guys who are used to being the scorer and the man for their program that they've not figured out how to play within a team, and it's killing guys. I feel bad for Trayvon Brazile having to deal with all this. Brazil's phenomenal. Coming off the injury, I love his game. He is getting hurt by all this because they have not figured out how to play. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. The offense is literally, it's pure isolation. There's no motion. There's no moving the defense. There's no dribble, drive, penetration, kick out, swing the ball around, get an open shot. There's none of that. It's brutal to watch. Bruce Pearl actually kind of dissed Arkansas after he played them it was his press conference before the A&M game when all the reporters, they were just talking, how are you going to deal with A&M's rebounding? How are you going to deal with A&M's rebounding? He goes, well, it's going to be different than the Arkansas game because all we had to do to box out Arkansas was put a body on them. They weren't fighting through nothing. They were boxed out. And I think that just kind of sums up what you're seeing from Arkansas. There's no toughness. There's no fight. The team's just a mess right now.
They're 9-7 on a 3-game losing streak, all by double digits. In the 2 cases, Auburn and Florida just absolutely railroaded them. Their next couple to end January, home against A&M, home against South Carolina, who's obviously much improved, away to Mississippi, who's much improved, home against Kentucky, which will be a lively crowd, and then away at Missouri. The only win that I see for the remaining part of January is maybe at Missouri. Because South Carolina's gotten better. A&M's, we've seen what they can be. Mississippi, under Chris Beard, is way better than I thought they would be in year 1. Kentucky, they're going to give Kentucky their best shot, but Kentucky's probably going to hang 90 up on them. Maybe Missouri on the road, but even then, that's a style which they're going to play fast and up and down. Arkansas may not win the rest of January, and that's a problem. That's a real problem.
They might not win the rest of January, and they might not win for a good portion of February too. I'll tell you right now, I have no hope for this team. Like normally, if you look at years past, they've started out slow in SEC play, but they can turn around. This team is showing no signs of any life. I've pretty much given up.
Yeah, I think they're DOA right now.
Yeah.
Let's move on because we've been here for a minute talking about some SEC,
Right.
and I appreciate your time. I know we got some other stuff I'd like to touch on. Just real quick, we got to talk about Auburn, and I want to ask you about one of the bigger surprises being South Carolina. So tell me what you're seeing from Auburn right now, because they look legitimate top 10 good right now.
Auburn has the best bench in the country. It's not.
I'd agree with that.
I would go to war with anyone over, or if they say someone else has a better bench. It's unreal. They have 10 starters. There's no let up, and I think their best 2 defensive players, Dylan Cardwell and Chad Baker-Mazara, come off the bench. I mean, their defense gets better as they go to the bench. For 40 minutes, you're playing starters. It's brutal. This team is legit.
Dylan Cardwell has been a revelation this year.
Unreal.
Because when Janai Broome obviously plays at an all SEC level, borderline one, maybe one all American teams, we know what he can do. It's when he goes off was the question. But Dylan Cardwell at 6'11", the physicality, they do not have a drop off with him this year. They do not have a drop off. I'm very impressed with a guy like Denver Jones coming in from Florida International as a 3-point shooter. Aiden Holloway has been phenomenal as a freshman. We kind of figured it'd happen. KD Johnson has been the surprise to me, because we've seen 3 years of KD where he's sporadic and he'll go for a 30-piece one game and then turn around and have 2 points, 9 turnovers, because he's erratic. I think he's been more solid this year and is playing more consistent. And that's been a big help for Auburn. You look at them, they're top 10 in both offense and defense. They're 10th in offense, 6th in defense. They can lock you up on one end and they can put 90 on your head on the other. This is a damn good Auburn team that has an outside shot of making the Final Four. I really believe in that. And their schedule, again, SEC so hard, but their schedule's kind of favorable. I mean, away at Vanderbilt, home against Ole Miss, away at Alabama in a rivalry game, away at Mississippi State, back home against Vanderbilt. That's the rest of their January. They're on a 9-game win streak. There's a real chance they can enter February on a 14-game win streak. This is a real deal Auburn team now.
You just brought up Denver Jones and his 3-point shooting. He just held Jalen Cook to 0 assists and 5 turnovers.
Yep.
His defense on ball has been amazing. And just one last note on Auburn, just to kind of put into perspective of how good they are. Bruce Pearl in his press conference just after this game, he goes, we're ranked 16. I think we're ranked too high. I think there's more than 16 teams better than us. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's coach
I don't
speak.
believe that for a second. That's just a coach that is keeping his guys motivated. This team's not going to drop off at all.
Nah, and you would hope there isn't an injury, but they're one of the teams, I think, if there was an injury to, let's say, a Janai Broome, or maybe if they lost Aiden Holloway, it changes them with that explosive point guard. But if they had an injury, their bench is so good that there's not going to be that big of a drop-off. So I think they're one of the teams that could kind of withstand an unfortunate event like that. Let's talk about South Carolina real quick. Lamont Paris, he's got them 14-2, only losses to Clemson in a close game on the road, and a blowout against Alabama in a game in which they led early on the road. Only losses on the road. I still think at some point they're going to come back down to earth. I do, and that's not being mean. Meechie Johnson has been phenomenal. I love the additions of BJ Mack coming in from Wofford, Miles Studi coming in from Vanderbilt. They've all been tremendous. They have been probably the biggest surprise, maybe in college basketball this year, has been South Carolina, compared to what we had done preseason at the bottom of the SEC to where they are right now, a team that may be borderline top 25. What a job he has done through the first part of the year.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference in this team, if I'm being honest, is Talon Cooper. The way that he can just open up the game for Meechie Johnson and control the rock. His assist to turnover ratio is insane. It was last year too. It hasn't changed one bit. The thing about South Carolina is, will they come back down to earth? Maybe. You just saw them sneak out of Missouri when they were down 5 with like 2 minutes left. So they really snuck out of that one, and Missouri's not playing their best basketball right now. But this half court offense is just, it's really good. You saw them against Alabama in the first half, just completely slow down Alabama. No one's really been able to slow down Alabama. They did it for 20 minutes. So are they going to come back down to earth? Probably a little bit. They're sneaking out of some games. but that half court offense ain't going anywhere with Cooper and Johnson running the show. They're really efficient.
I completely agree. Last thing on the SEC, you look at the standings right now. Obviously, at the top, Auburn, Alabama tied at 3-0. It's still early days in the conference. How many teams, if you were sitting here on January 14th, how many teams does the SEC get in the NCAA tournament? Because I have 8, maybe 9. I have 8.
The optimist in me says 9. But I think 8's a lock.
Yeah, I think 8, and I think it's to be Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky. I think Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Florida, Georgia sneaks in. I think that's my 8, and then the 9th one will either be South Carolina, Ole Miss. I think 9. I think 8 for sure.
8 for sure.
Maybe 9. Maybe 9.
I
so.
Agree.
I don't want to take too much of your time. You did say you wanted to help me out here with some of the reviews since Trev and Peyton and Phil couldn't make it today. So let's rapid fire some of these if you're all right with that.
Yeah.
Let's go to Allen Fieldhouse, where number 3, Kansas, coming off their loss earlier in the week at Central Florida, played host to Oklahoma, who also was coming off a loss. In Allen Fieldhouse, the Jayhawks get back on track with a victory at home, 78-66 over number 9, Oklahoma, who's now dropped 2 in a row this week. Any thoughts on Kansas's bounce back victory?
The broadcast said this during the game, and it was.
By the way, I don't mean to cut you off. Why the fuck are we putting these top 10 games on ESPN Plus? They did it last year with Kansas State.
I know.
Why are we doing that?
It was ridiculous. This game was like, besides Texas A&M, Kentucky, this game was like it's on paper game of the week with 2 top 10 teams. I think the broadcast said it. They said out of the top 10 teams, Kansas has the smallest margin of error because of how thin they are with no real bench production. So you literally need a good game from all of your starters. And when you're playing at Allen Fieldhouse, things just click for Kansas. It's almost near impossible to beat them at their place.
We talk about this all year long with how weak Kansas's bench production is. They got 4 points off the bench, 2 from Elmarco Jackson, 2 from Parker Braun. But they did take Jackson out of the starting lineup, threw in Johnny Furphy, who gave them 7. That seemed to be a good little change of pace. But again, it was Kansas's big players who stepped up. Dickinson had 24 and 14. Kevin McCullough, who I call their MVP, 21 points. KJ Adams, 15. DeJuan Harris, 7 and 8 assists, 3 steals, the best defensive point guard in college basketball, one of the best leaders in college basketball. But it's all coming from their big 4. They need bench production, or Kansas, in my opinion, we've talked about this all year. They could make a Final Four behind those big 4, or they could be knocked out in the first round and upset because they do not have the bench production to help. They don't particularly shoot the 3 well. I know percentage-wise they do, but per average, like they went 3 of 15 yesterday. They're somewhere around. I think if everything levels out at the end of the year, instead of shooting 37, 38%, they're going to be down towards like 33, 34% when it all levels out. But if they're big 4, one of those big 4 gets hurt, I think Kansas is toast this year for any type of deep run. Oklahoma, they've lost 2 in a row now, 13-3, still having a great year so far. I do worry about Oklahoma in these big games. We know their defense is elite, but again, kind of like Tennessee, where's the offense night in, night out coming from? Javion McCollum's been tremendous for him. He had 17 to lead them, but I do worry about Oklahoma now. Let's see if they can get back on track. But Kansas needed the bounce back win, the friendly confines of Allen Fieldhouse. And by the way, DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams played all 40 minutes in this ball game. I think that's going to wear them down too, especially with a shorter bench than what Bill Self would probably like. Let's go out to the Mountain West, one of the most fun conferences in college basketball this year. Well, we've talked about it here in recent weeks. I think they get 4, maybe 5 teams out of that conference. Maybe, if everything played out right, maybe 6. Probably not likely, but I think they're set for 4 or 5. New Mexico in the pit takes down number 19. Were they number? Number 18, San Diego State, 88-70. We talked about it on Thursday's episode with our friend Michael DeRosa. Him and I were discussing this. New Mexico needs at least 2 of their big 3 to play well, and they got that yesterday. Jalen House, 26 points. Jamal Mashburn Jr., 19. They got 17 points, 16 rebounds from the freshman JT Toppin. When they play well, New Mexico is damn lethal and could win that conference. Any initial reactions to both New Mexico and San Diego State?
I thought New Mexico on the boards did an incredible job. Like to match San Diego State's physicality in this game. I like how you mentioned JT Toppin. He left 9 free throws out there. This
Oh
could have been
no.
even a bigger of a not a blowout, but they could have had even a larger margin of victory. I thought this was just like a perfect storm. You make a few shots early and you're crushing on the boards. No one's giving this New Mexico State team enough credit. I think they're one of the best teams in the Mountain West. Like if you look at San Diego State and everyone now is, you hear San Diego State and you hear them because of the March Madness run and the championship run. Start paying attention to this New Mexico team because I think they might be better.
I think New Mexico, of all the teams out in the Mountain West, you talk about New Mexico, San Diego State, Utah State, Colorado State, Boise State. New Mexico, when they play at their best, has a chance to make a second weekend run in the NCAA tournament. They've got guards, they've got bigs, they can play an attractive style, score. I think of all those teams in the Mountain West, they are the most well-equipped to make a run to the Sweet 16 and beyond, maybe even an outside chance at a Final Four if everything played out right. Let's go on, start hitting some of these real quick. Houston took their second loss in a row, both on the road in Big 12 play. They lost earlier in the week on the road at Iowa State. They followed up yesterday with a loss to a very good TCU team who we've been singing their praises, talking about how great of a team Jamie Dixon has there in TCU. They lose 68-67 on essentially a buzzer beater backdoor play. Emmanuel Miller only had 13, but it was the well-balanced scoring for TCU that kept them in the game. Their defense held Houston to 68, and I will say this again after I said it Thursday. Houston does not come across as a Final Four team to me right now because they are more prone to nights of not scoring the basketball than they are defending it at an elite level. I think you get a team who can score the basketball at a high clip, and it's not like TCU had a bunch of points, but they still have offensive firepower all around. Houston is in trouble when they play games like that. I don't trust their I trust their defense more than I trust their offense in big-time games like this. TCU, they will be in our top 25. I'm voting them tonight in our top 25 because they deserve it. 13-3, 2-1 in conference, and they've got ballers. I really, really like Jamie Dixon's ball club.
Yeah, I think this team really is starting to miss Terrence Arsenault. I think that's another piece also. And I'm getting last year's Tennessee team when I see this Houston team. I get that kind of vibe. Can shut you down when they play at home and the crowd's behind them. It's going to be near impossible to get off and run against them. But you keep seeing this team. And I like how you said New Mexico, like aesthetically, New Mexico just looks very good. You watch them and they pass that eye test. This Houston team, I mean, they'll rebound the heck out of the ball and they'll make stuff tough around the rim, but the offense is just, it doesn't look good. And I think that's one of the more concerning things. It does not look very efficient.
They brought LJ Cryer in from Baylor to help them be a big-time scorer.
Now, what do you go, 1 of 7?
1 of 7 for 5 points. He did it as well against Iowa State. I don't have the exact number, but it was under 10 points if I remember right. He can't disappear.
He went
in
1
big
of
ball
6.
games. Yeah, he cannot disappear in big ball games. They have to rely on him to be a big scorer to help this offense out. Juwan Roberts was great, 20 points. They got 17 off the bench from Damian Dunn. LJ Cryer has to be good in order Houston to make a legit run to the Final Four. If he's not good in these games, I don't see Houston winning these big-time marquee games. Especially, it's not like they're playing in the American anymore. They're not going to get like these quote-unquote cake or cupcakes. Every night in the Big 12, as they're finding out now, is going to be brutal and probably the best conference in college basketball. I think, let me ask you this. Over under heading into March, Houston at 5 losses. Over that or under that, 5 losses heading into March?
Over.
I'm going over too.
Over.
I'm going over.
I mean, let me just run through their road trips here through. They got to go to BYU, to Texas, to Kansas, to Cincy, to Baylor, to Oklahoma, to UCF. Yeah, over 5.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think about 7 if you look at that remaining schedule, because I think they're going to drop a home game too.
Yep.
Whether it be Kansas or maybe they have an off night against like a Texas or whoever. They're going to drop at least 1 home game and they're going to lose a couple more on the road. I think 7 losses going into the NCAA tournament, which would put them maybe, I don't know, but I'd have to ask one of our bracketology friends,
Right.
maybe like a 3 seed or something. But Houston has to figure out the scoring night in, night out. More particular, they need more from LJ Cryer in these big games. Last one I want to talk about real quick, and I appreciate the hell out of your time.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the score. It's just how well this team's playing. They're playing like a top 3 team in the country, and that's North Carolina.
Yep.
Since losing to Kentucky, they've rattled off 6 wins in a row now, and they're doing it in impressive fashion. They've been playing games in the 60s. Yesterday, they came out and decided to railroad Syracuse at home, 103-67. Their ability, and we've talked about this, to play in low-scoring games based on their defense or get out and run like this or like they did against Tennessee makes them so dangerous. They have the pieces everywhere. They've got a star in R.J. Davis. They've got complementary pieces in Harrison Ingram, Cormac Ryan, Elliot Cadeau, Jalen Withers off the bench. And then they've got an elite big man in Armando Bacot. They've learned how to play defense. They've kept the North Carolina identity of playing fast and scored a bunch of points. This is, for the first time all year, this is a team that could win a national title.
Oh, yeah. I think that the biggest difference, and he has just been outstanding, is Harrison Ingram. I mean, that guy is just so cool, calm, and collected, always makes the right play. If I'm being honest, those 3 straight away games, if you told me before, like, okay, do they drop one of them? I would have been like, definitely. 3 straight conference road games to start January. Man, they are just taking care of business. And what me and my buddies, we always like to say, you need that Joel Berry. You know,
Yep.
You need that Joel Berry to win these type of games. And RJ Davis is literally like a clone of Joel Berry. Just, gosh, this team, I think, is top 5.
How much has he not improved? Because I think the skill set's always been there, but how much more comfortable and consistent does he look that Caleb Love's not there now?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's just a huge difference. He's shooting with so much more confidence. You know, it's almost like last year he wouldn't know if it was his turn to shoot or not. You know what I
Right.
And
Yep.
now he's the guy. You know, I think
Yeah.
that's just gone. It's been huge for him.
Yeah.
I was down on this team to begin. I was like, they lost a ton in the portal. They added some guys. They added a Pac-12 guy, Cormac Ryan. I was so wrong about this team. Probably the team I was most wrong about was this North Carolina team.
I think we all had hangover from the last year or two where they were iffy, right? But this team's a legit deal. I apologize. We are live, so I've kind of ignored some of our comments. Peyton's in the live chat. Going back through some of these, said, I just woke up, go Pack, go in Hala Madrid. Of course, I got my Packers shit on right now. He said, Rock Chalk. Our guy Connor McCabe on the YouTube says, hello. There's some comments here about glad Johnny Furphy started over El Marco, needed that spark. Only 2 turnovers in the game for us. Broke the program record. And then Connor says, he said he talked with me a little bit yesterday about outside of Braun and Furphy, there's no real bench production. Some comments about New Mexico. So keep the live chat coming. We are live on the YouTube, the Twitter, and the Facebook group. So we appreciate the hell of you guys follow along with that. Arizona, by the way, did lose again. They lost on the road to Washington State. They are now coming down to earth after being red hot to start the year. I think that Purdue loss broke them a little bit because now they've lost 4 of their last 8, it looks like. I think that's broke them a little bit. They got a terrible game out of Kylan Boswell yesterday. So, it goes back to who the hell wants to be number 1 in college basketball right now. It looks like it may be Connecticut. I would vote North Carolina number 2. And then I don't know how the hell else it plays out. Max, dude, I know I said only 15 minutes, but with some of my co-hosts not showing up, I'm so grateful that you decided to go long with me today. It's been a hell of a lot of fun. Before we go out of here and I take an ad break before we start previewing some of the games this upcoming week, anything you want to plug, tell the people where to find you, what your work you got going on, and all that fun shit right now.
Yeah, I mean, well, hey, first off, thank you for having me on, and I will never hesitate to come on again.
We'll definitely have you back on. Yeah,
I could talk for 4 hours on this stuff. I love this stuff. But real quick, over at Southeastern 14, actually today, literally this morning, we hit 14,000 subs. So it was a big day for the company. We do a preview, a pick, and a reaction to every single SEC game, no matter how low profile or high profile. We're doing a pick and prediction and reaction every single game. But hey, check out these guys right here. I mean, there's Josh, I appreciate the hell out of you, man. This was awesome.
Dude, we will definitely have you back on talking SEC, of course, but obviously we'll bring you back on, talk some college hoops in general. You know your shit. Guys, go drop them a follow. Go watch their YouTube channel. That's to full disclosure. That's how I found out about these guys about a year ago. Just random on YouTube, searching some stuff up. They pop up. Been big fans ever since. So I'm excited to have Max as a friend now that'll be able to come on. Go follow their work at Southeastern 14 on the YouTube and on Twitter. Go follow Max. It's at Max Barr CBB on Twitter. He's a great follow talking SEC and all college hoops. Max, I appreciate the hell out of you, and we will get you back on here in the next few weeks if times align and all that stuff. I can't wait to have you back on, my friend.
100%, brother.
Go drop them a follow. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a small commercial break. When we come back, we got some big games to preview this upcoming week. Indiana, Purdue. Of course, I'm going to talk about that in-state rivalry and tell you why the Hoosiers have a legit shot of pulling the upset that you may not understand. All that and more coming up on episode 174 right after this commercial break. College basketball fans, I've got a question for you. Are you looking to score big?
All right, thanks so much, man.
Analysis? Well, ShotQualityBets.com is your go-to source for data, picks, and predictions that are a cut above the rest. With their state-of-the-art computer vision and AI, they analyze the game like no one else, providing you with unique data that's crucial for making informed decisions. Shot Quality Bets takes the hard work out of betting by matching their highly accurate predictions with the current betting lines, making it a breeze for you to place winning wagers. And the best part? You can start this winning streak right now with the Everything College Basketball exclusive code of ECB for 10% off your first month. Simply visit shotqualitybets.com/welcome to sign up and jump into the action. It's that easy. ShotQualityBets.com, where data drives your analysis to the next level.
What's going on, Everything College Basketball listeners? It is Conrad Cushman here from Everything Pro Wrestling. Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans, where we talk pro wrestling every single week. Our current schedule is Mondays live at 6:05. We have Clash of the Podcast for myself and my co-host, Sean Hubbard of Hubbard Wrestling Weekly, go live to talk all the latest and greatest in pro wrestling. On Wednesdays, we are live after AEW Dynamite, a little after 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Everything Pro Wrestling YouTube channel as well. Make sure you guys come on over if you guys are fans of All Elite Wrestling. And we do cover some of the pay-per-views that happen over the weekends. Keep your eyes peeled for when we have those available as well. Thank you guys so much for listening to us talk about our schedule. Let's get back to my good friends over at Everything College Basketball.
Once again, shout out to Conrad Cushman over Everything Pro Wrestling. TNA just had their first rebranded pay-per-view last night, back as TNA, not Impact Wrestling anymore. So go check out Conrad for all the exclusive information on that, as well as big shout out to ShotQualityBets.com for coming on board with ECB this year. Use the promo code ECB at checkout for 10% off your first month. Let's look ahead to this upcoming week. More conference action we're going to get into, especially let's start on Tuesday night. One of the biggest rivalries in college basketball, I'd argue it is top 3 or 4 in the country, and that is number 1, maybe number 1 still, probably not, but number 1 as of this moment, Purdue, heading down south to play their bitter rival, the Indiana Hoosiers, in Simon Scotch Assembly Hall. This will be fun. We know Indiana. We know their offensive struggles. They are very brutal to watch on the offensive end. They rank 118th in adjusted efficiency on offense. They only shoot 33.7% from 3. They've got a terrible free throw percentage, shooting 66%, and they don't necessarily take care of the basketball. So why would I say Indiana has a chance of beating the high-powered Purdue offense and just Purdue team in general? After Zach Edey, who they blew out Penn State yesterday, he put up a 30-point, 20-rebound performance, kind of normal for the big men. Why would I think Indiana has a chance? Well, Indiana, for one, it's a rivalry game. We know craziness happens in rivalry games. Assembly Hall is a special building. That place will be packed. Indiana could have 1 win on the year. Instead of being 12-5, they could have 1 win and 15 losses, or 16 losses, I guess. And that building would be packed for this Purdue game. It is a loud building. Outside of Fall Gallon Fieldhouse, Assembly Hall may be the loudest building in college basketball. And that's not just me saying that. People have been there, played there, decibel levels, all that. So the environment's going to be raucous on Tuesday night at Assembly Hall. Indiana is a different team at home than they are playing on the road this year. Look at their home victories. They've got one home loss, and that was to Kansas by 4 points in a game in which they led for a large portion of that game and then just kind of faded there at the end. They don't lose too much at home right now. And their losses have been on the road or in neutral site games outside of that to some pretty good teams. Connecticut in a neutral game at Madison Square Garden got blown out. Auburn and Atlanta, Georgia blew them out. 2 very good teams. Nebraska on the road, we just seen earlier in the week what they did to Purdue, is a good team at home. Rutgers, they're not good this year, but playing at the rack is very tough to win at regardless. So that's their 5 losses. Indiana at home, they just beat Minnesota on Friday night. Last Saturday, they beat a pretty good Ohio State team at home. They beat Maryland, which has been very disappointing, but still, they beat them at home. Indiana is a different team at home than they are when they are on the road. When they play in those pearly whites, they are different than playing in the crimson red. So, how will Indiana beat Purdue on Tuesday night if it happens? Obviously, it starts on the interior. They've got to find a way to neutralize Zach Edey. I think there's 2 ways Indiana has to play Zach Edey. One, you wall up, run double teams at him, and then hope that the guards from Purdue just don't hit shots when he kicks them out. 2, and the option I would do is you play him one-on-one and you lock up the perimeter. You say, all right, Edey, he's going to get 30 points. He's going to get 20, 25 rebounds. We're shutting everything else down because he cannot beat us by himself. He can go for 30. 30 points ain't enough to win a ball game, especially on the road. Also, we've seen this week has been proof that conference road games are extremely difficult to get victories in. Indiana, I think, has to just play Edey one-on-one, maybe run like a dig at him, but not a full double team because he's too big and he's turned into too good of a passer out of double teams. Run digs at him, but just say Khalil Ware and your big guys, when you bring in Peyton Sparks, who's giving up size, everybody's giving up size to him, but you know what I mean. Play behind him, maybe front him, but play him one-on-one and say we are locking up Purdue's perimeter players. Because when Purdue, still, even this year, but going back to last year, Braden Smith has been tremendous most of the year this year. Fletcher Lawyer has been up and down. Lance Jones has been really good. But when you put pressure, in-game pressure, on Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer and Lance Jones, those guys have a hard time dealing with it. So if I'm Indiana, I am running maybe double teams out. If they produce those ball screens, trap them. Put them in trouble, rotations. Put a lot of pressure. Get your guards up on Purdue's guards and make life hell for them for 40 minutes. And just say, Edey, if you're going to go for 30 or 40 points, no big deal, because we're going to hold your guards to under 20 points combined or whatever the case may be. I think Indiana has to do that. And then in transition, the teams who beat Purdue have spread Edey away from the rim. They do have a couple of those guys. Khalil Ware can shoot the 3. Malik Renew can shoot the 3 pretty well, actually. He might be Indiana's best 3-point shooter. So if Purdue switches on ball screens and you have, let's say, Edey stepping out on guard, but especially if he's guarding Malik Renew, stay away from the rim. Keep the rim open. Keep the paint open. Do not go down there. Go 5 out. Keep Edey playing honest out in the perimeter, especially if Malik Renew is on him, where he can take him off the bounce or he can pick or hit a 3 if left wide open with enough space. Indiana's got a chance in this game. Ken Palm says Purdue wins by 11, 81-70. I'm telling you right now, Indiana has a chance in this game for everything I just said, but it's going to come down to a couple things. How well they pressure Purdue's guards. If Indiana can hit enough threes to keep Purdue's defense honest. And then I'll combine 2 here. Indiana's transition points and keeping the turnovers low. But Indiana's got a chance. I know they've not been pretty to watch this year, but they've got a chance to win this game. Purdue, on the other end, take care of the basketball in a tough road environment, probably the rowdiest road environment you're going to play all year. Take care of the basketball. You need Fletcher Lawyer to hit some shots. He cannot go disappearing act where he has 5 points, 1 of 4 from 3, and then 1 of 7 from the floor overall. Purdue has to keep the turnovers low. They need their guards to play well, and they come out victorious in this game. If they don't do any of those two well, Indiana is going to be there at the end. And then if Indiana is hanging around within 2, 3 points, 4 points, a possession or two, or inside the final TV time out there, Purdue's in trouble because they will start to feel the weight of that pressure. Indiana just has to keep it close. I'm going to say Purdue wins the game because they are the better team on the road. But I will say this, it will not be a big margin. It will be within 2 or 3 points. In Indiana, if Indiana wins this game, it will not be a shock to me. Indiana has all the opportunities in the world to win this ball game, and I'm going to say they keep it close. Purdue wins, but Indiana keeps this thing razor tight throughout the entire game. And if you tell me Indiana wins at the end, I won't be surprised. That's just who they are. Rivalry game at home against their biggest rival, one of the best teams in the college basketball. They're going to find a way to keep this thing close, like they did with Kansas. Let's see if they can actually pull it out. But I'm going to go Purdue. They're going to win. It's going to be something like 83-82. But Purdue wins by the slimmest of margins. But I do think Indiana has a great opportunity to get a massive victory to help their NCAA tournament case out. But I'm going to say Purdue wins this game, but will not be surprised if Indiana pulls off the upset at home. Let's go to the SEC. We just talked with Max Barr there a lot about SEC play. Also on Tuesday night, Florida goes on the road to play Tennessee in a pseudo rivalry game. Now, we've talked a lot about Tennessee and how great they've been with Zakai Ziegler and Dalton Connect and et cetera, et cetera. They're playing at home. Florida, after losing 2 in a row to Kentucky and Ole Miss, they bounce back with a blowout victory against Arkansas. I think Florida's an NCAA tournament team. I love their guard play. We've talked about them. Walter Clayton, Riley Kugel, Will Richard, Zion Pullen. Very good guards. And then you get your big men playing well in Tyrese Samuel and Michael Hanlogton. Florida is going to present some issues for Tennessee's defense because they can shoot the ball, right? I mean, 3-point percentage, it's under what you'd like. They're at 33%, but they have shooters. Kugel, Richard, Clayton, Pullen. They all can make threes, especially if they get hot. Then they have bigs who are versatile, like Hanlogton's going to block shots at the rim. At Tennessee's driving, when they attack the rim, they're going to drive. And then Tyrese Samuel's kind of that muscle to combat some of Tennessee's physicality. I think Tennessee wins with it being in Knoxville. When it being in Thompson Bowling Arena, Tennessee, I think, is going to win. But kind of like what I just said about Purdue, Indiana, Florida's going to make enough shots to keep this thing close. They're a tremendous offensive rebounding team. 41% on offensive rebounds puts them third in the nation. If they can get, let's say, 12 to 15 offensive rebounds and get those second, third opportunities against Tennessee's defense, well, now we're talking about a potential upset on the road and a big-time quad one victory for Florida to help their seeding in the NCAA tournament. I think Tennessee wins being at home, but I think Florida keeps us close. I think Florida could be up with 5 minutes to go in this game, and then Tennessee, like they did against Georgia, rallies, makes enough plays down the stretch, forces enough turnovers, wins this ball game at home. But I won't be surprised in the slightest if Florida is up with 5 minutes to go in Knoxville. Will not be shocked whatsoever. Let's go back to the Mountain West. So we've got Utah State on the road at the Pit against New Mexico. We just talked about what New Mexico did to San Diego State yesterday. And I don't think there's that much difference in what they could do to Utah State. And I'm going to say the same thing that DeRosa and I said on Thursday. If you can get New Mexico at least 2 of their 3 big guards playing well in this game against Utah State, they win this ball game. They will win this game if 2 of the big 3, if Dent, Jamal Mashburn Jr., or why did I just forget forget the other kid's name? But if 2 of those 3, Jalen House, there it is, Jalen House. If just 2 of the 3 play well, they're going to beat Utah State. If only 1 of the 3 play well, then they're in trouble because Utah State can really score and all that. But the emergence again of JT Toppin, we haven't even talked about Nelly Jr. Joseph. They've got dudes on this New Mexico team. But 2 of the 3 guards has to play well in order to win. If only one of them play well, then Utah State probably wins this game. But if all three play well, let's say Donovan Dent gets 15, let's say Jalen House gets 20, and let's say Jamal Mashburn Jr. gets 15, there's no chance in hell Utah State wins this game, especially on the road in the pit. I like this New Mexico team a whole hell of a lot, and I favor them to beat Utah State in an entertaining game. Ken Palm agrees. They've got them winning 79-76. I think it's going to be a little lower scoring a game because I think the defense will reign with both. I mean, New Mexico's 27th in defense. Utah State is 47th, so both top 50 defenses. Utah State has won 15 in a row, the nation's longest active win streak, 16-1. They don't shoot the three well, but they defend the hell out of the three. I'm going New Mexico to break the streak here and give Utah State their first loss in conference. I'm going New Mexico to win this game 69-62. I think their defense and their elite backcourt steps up and makes enough plays to beat Utah State and break their 15-game win streak. Let's go back to the SEC on Wednesday night. Kentucky plays host to Mississippi State, coming off the tough road loss in overtime to Texas A&M. Mississippi State has Tolu Smith back. Mississippi State is going to be very physical. It's going to be kind of a carbon copy of what they've seen on the road at Texas A&M. They get after the glass, offensive rebounding. They're 58th in the country, that Mississippi State being. But they don't, like, offensive-wise is what's going to scare me with Mississippi State. Defensively, they're damn good. 9th in the country. 68 in offense. They shoot 32% from three. That's 239. Now, they defend the three at an elite level, which is paramount in this game with how Kentucky shoots the three at around 40%. They only allow teams to shoot 27.7%. They're long, they're athletic, they're going to be physical. They've got a freshman stud in their own right. Josh Hubbard, we've talked a lot about him. This is going to be a very tight game. This is going to be very interesting. I think Mississippi State's going to be very physical, especially after seeing what Texas A&M did to Kentucky. They're going to try to crash the offensive glass. They're going to try to beat them up, be physical with them in the half-court defense. But if Kentucky can get up and down in transition and they can see some threes falling, I think they could run away from Mississippi State in this ballgame. But I do think Mississippi State keeps it close until about 3-4 minutes ago. Kentucky finally starts to gap them. I like the Cats at home in a bounce back, but it's not going to be easy. They're going to get all they want and more from Mississippi State, but they're going to score a lot of points. I think in order for Mississippi State to win, they're going to have to score at least 80, 85 in this game themselves. I don't think that's going to happen. I like Kentucky winning this game 89-78. Very tight game throughout the entire contest until the end, but I think Kentucky at home bounces back, gets a nice bounce back victory against a very good Mississippi State team. Last one I want to talk about, excuse me, in the Big East on Wednesday night as well, you've got ranked Connecticut coming off. They're on a 4-game win streak now. Connecticut 4-game win streak, playing Creighton, who just had a home victory in kind of controversial fashion against St. John's. This will be for a battle for the top of the Big East Conference here. You look at Connecticut. Since losing to Seton Hall on December 20th, they've won 4 in a row. 2 of them on the road, being the last 2, Butler and Xavier. They will play Creighton on Wednesday night at home in a game that could determine who takes the top spot at the end of the year for the Big East. When I break this down and I look at it, Connecticut, 3rd in offense, 40th in defense. I love the physicality, even without Donovan Clingan. Clingan's a major loss, but Tristan Newton's on this team. Stephon Castle is an elite change of pace guard. Cam Spencer's a veteran shooter, can do a little bit of everything. Alex Caravan kind of the same way. I like what I see out of Connecticut. I think they're going to be the number 1 team in the country, barring an upset today against Georgetown. They're going to be the new number 1 when polls come out tomorrow. I think they're going to be right there in contention throughout the whole way, especially if they can get Clingan back towards the back end of the year. I like Connecticut. Creighton, something about Creighton just scares the hell out of me. If Ryan Kalkbrenner cannot have a great game without Donovan Clingan being in this ball game, he should go to work on Samson Johnson on the interior. If he can't have a good game in this one, then I worry about if he's going to be all Big East caliber this year. Put it that way. Creighton can score. Creighton's won 4 in a row themselves. Since they're losing back-to-back, They've beat Georgetown, Providence, DePaul, and St. John's. Two of the four is good wins. Two of them are whatever. But they're going to get a challenge on the road Wednesday night up there in Connecticut. Trey Alexander, Baylor Shireman have to play well. And I think if Creighton pulls the upset on the road, Ryan Kalkbrenner has to go to work in this ballgame. If he has a game where he only has like 7 points and 6 rebounds, Connecticut's going to blow him out. Connecticut's going to run rampant over him. I think Shireman, Alexander have to put probably at least 16, 18 points apiece up, and then Kalkbrenner has to step up. And then if Stephen Ashworth's ever going to be the player they thought he was going to be, it's got to start in this game. And I know it's tough because I talked about the Connecticut guards, but Ashworth has to be better than what he's been playing. He just has to. He cannot continue to be this so-so type of player. He has to be better. I think Creighton has enough offense to keep it close. I think they can hit enough threes, can get to the lane enough to keep this game close. But being on the road, we've seen this. This is very tough. I think Connecticut wins and wins comfortably in the end. I think Connecticut probably wins this game like 86-72. UConn are so damn good, even without Klingon. That's kind of it for the previews. I want to wrap this up. I was going to do this with the guys, and I'll just kind of go do it with myself real quick. That sounded wrong. But we played this with DeRosa on Thursday. Final Four Sweet 16 upset first round game. And I've got 2 different choices here. I'll go through them. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on them. So between Wisconsin, Iowa State, BYU, Final Four Sweet 16 upset first round. Man, this is tough. And I did this myself. I was the one that picked them. I think if you're looking at the Final Four team, I like Wisconsin's balance more than I do Iowa State and BYU. I think they're all similar. BYU probably has the better offense. Maybe Iowa State has a better defense, but I think Wisconsin's somewhere in the middle, where on their best day, they can hit threes. They've got guards that can attack the rim and make plays, and they play pretty good defense. So I'm going Wisconsin in the Final Four out of this group. Sweet 16. Man, that's tough. Sweet 16, probably Iowa State, because they do have guards who can make plays, but their defense is so good. And the BYU has the best offense of the trio, would be the first round upset. But if they're not hitting, if they do not hit shots, I worry about a potential game. Let's say they're a 5 seed playing a 12, historic upset seeds, where they could get bounced, where they have a cold shooting night. So they would be my first round upset. So Wisconsin Final Four, Iowa State Sweet 16, BYU first round upset. The second grouping, New Mexico, Gonzaga, Dayton. I've already kind of tipped my hand here. I'm going New Mexico Final Four out of that group. Again, love their guards. They've got bigs who can play. They can score in a high-paced game or high-tempo game. They can also play in a half court, but they've got guards, multiples of them. New Mexico is an outside chance of a Final Four if everything goes right. So they would be the Final Four pick in this group trio. Sweet 16 would be Dayton. Deron Holmes is filthy. They can play defense. They can play now. Dayton is really good. And Deron Holmes, they've got a star. I think they could be Sweet 16 bound. Again, if matchups played out, they've won 10 in a row. Their last loss was to Houston over there in Charleston in the championship game of the Charleston Classic. They shoot the hell out of 3, Dayton, that is. 40%. That's 6th in the country. Deron Holmes is a stud. They've got good players like Kobe Elvis, Nate Santos, Javon Bennett. They've got dudes now. And I like this Dayton team. I do think that they could get to a Sweet 16 out of this grouping. And then the last team, Gonzaga, I don't even think they're tournament teams, let alone a team that can make a run to the Sweet 16 or Final Four. So they would be, if they make the tournament, they would be my first round upset team. Because at this point, if they get in, they're going to be anywhere from like an 8 to 11 seed. And I think that bad matchups all around for this Gonzaga team who struggles to score the basketball. So I'm going to say Final Four would be New Mexico, Sweet 16 Dayton, and then first round upset Gonzaga. We will keep doing this game. It's a lot of fun. It's more fun when I have other co-hosts with me, but we'll keep doing this throughout, and I'll keep trying to make these even tougher to pick from. This has been a fun episode. Again, appreciate Max Barr from Southeastern 14 coming on and joining me today. Hopefully my teammates, I'll talk to them later. Hopefully they're doing okay. But we will be back, and I've got a special announcement to make. When we come back at you, episode 175 on Thursday in the midweek, we will be joined by the head coach of Lipscomb. Head coach Lenny Acuff will be joining us live before that night they play Central Arkansas in a big-time A-Sun showdown. His team's really good. We've talked about him. He's got a team that could win that conference, get the AQ, and be an NCAA tournament team. I love their style of play. I love the tempo. They've got a guard I really love in Joe Anderson coming in from Furman. That's a do-it-all guard when you watch him play in person. And I'm excited to talk to Coach Lenny on Thursday's show. So make sure you tune in to that. Drop questions, follow along live for that. But wrapping up episode 174 for my teammates and Peyton and Phil and Trevor who couldn't make it today, and for our special guest today, much appreciated to Max Barr from over at Southeastern 14. Go follow that YouTube channel. I'm telling you, it is a fun insight to SEC college basketball. Those guys do a great job. Cannot wait to have Max back on later on in the year. But wrapping up episode 174, go leave us a like, follow, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and we will catch you on Thursday when we have Coach Lenny Acuff from Lipscomb joining us, talking about everything that happened the midweek and much more. Until then, go Pack, go today, beat the damn Cowboys, and we will catch you guys down the road. Thank you so much.